Yeah.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Good to see you all here. Uh, Most of us, I think, over here are Anil's classmates from IMA so far. I'm sure there will be others who keep joining, but the invite's gone to as many people as we could send them to. So the context is this book edited by Anil, and I think a lot of the chapters are also Anil's. I went through the content. I couldn't go beyond that. So the context is the book just published recently, and it's an interesting topic. And so I told him it'll be interesting to listen to you and to discuss this intersection between AI and consciousness in organizations specifically, right? Because we've been reading a lot about AI in the last 1 year, and there's a
Right.
lot of
Overhyped.
yeah, a lot of stuff about AI going on, whether it's good, bad, ugly. But this intersection with consciousness in organizations is an interesting thing, and the whole concept of organizational consciousness, right? So I said, okay, let's listen to what Anil has to say, uh, and then we can, whoever wants to ask questions and wants to start a discussion. I think we have enough people here who'd like to have a discussion. So over to you, Anil. Thanks,
Okay.
thanks for making the time. Yeah, and congrats on the book first.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you very
on,
much.
on on bringing it out. Very good publisher, and congrats on that. And yeah, over to you.
Okay.
Anil in our batch is one of the guys who has got a lot of books. He takes time and effort to get books done.
Yeah, it takes
Yeah.
discipline too. More than
Yeah.
time and effort, it takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
over to you.
Okay. So very good. First of all, welcome everybody for joining, and thanks Ian for inviting and setting it up, the context, and thanks everybody who's joined. So hopefully, we will talk a little bit about consciousness, a little bit about AI, a little bit of the interplay, and then we'll explore or sort of imagine where it can go. Yesterday, I posted on LinkedIn that imagination is more important than intelligence. So a lot of us are coming from institutions where our intelligence is like 10 out of 10, or some may claim 11 out of 10, but the consciousness may or may not be sort of the skill that we worked on, maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 for a lot of us because we have not learned how to go inner. So imagination, a lot of it sort of comes from inside, right? It doesn't come from hearing others. So that is so I was looking at how I posted something about I had this in my hand, the NVIDIA supercomputer. It's like it's replacing the cloud for a lot of people. That is, companies can have a large number of developers working right off that, not have to spend a developer time on the cloud. And I can't believe that supercomputer could be on our hand because when we were growing up in our teens, late teens, we saw all these battles about the Cray supercomputer, right? How it there was all this struggle to get a license for it. Now, this supercomputer in the hand is like probably 10x or 100x faster than supercomputer of Cray's range. So it's again, is it a challenge of imagination? Is it sort of inevitable that technology will grow at this pace? I don't know. But some people continue to imagine, and youth is continuing to imagine even faster, especially the AI native the population that's coming up. Just imagine what they will look forward to, what they will expect. So anyway, that is the context. And as usual, everything we do in AI is kind of obsolete the day before it gets published. It just is changing so much. I had a book on AI, and believe it or not, since 2019 or so, and it's remained perpetually incomplete because I couldn't decide what I could say by the time I got some handle. I just getting handle on it was very challenging. So eventually I got this ABC model of intelligence. I said that was cool. And I tested with a couple of people. It makes sense. So I'll start with that. And so A's, B's, and C's of intelligence. And then we'll see where we go. So let's see. You can see my slides, I hope. Yeah, you can see my screen. Okay, so artificial intelligence and consciousness, I'd call collective consciousness because I like that. Individual consciousness is one thing, but collective consciousness may be very important, just as artificial intelligence become very collective capability from around the world. So the book's title that just came out a week ago is AI and Consciousness in Organizations and Society. So this flowed out of my interest in these two areas, And 2 years ago, we conducted, a colloquium or symposium kind of thing with multiple sessions, with 15 sessions over 3 days, an academic group called Management, Spirituality, and Religion Division of the Academy of Management, the Global Academy of Management, of which right now I'm chair-elect globally. So anyway, I just had this thing, and then 15 people presented, and I said, okay, let's all write up chapters and we'll do it. Guess what? Only two of the chapters have come from those. Everybody else kind of, I won't say, what's a most polite word? They just were not able to or keen to write down what they had spoken in words or all the conversations we had, because I think they just I I thought things are changing so much they're not very sure they can put their name to it. And these are all good academics. So that's a challenge in this understanding this. But consciousness is kind of we have a deep understanding of consciousness, at least at Maharishi International University, where we have a subject flagship field is called Vedic science. Anyway, so I'll just quickly go through. Let's chant, if we can, the wholeness mantra, because all this is about a bigger wholeness of AI and consciousness. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You see the word, that world, outer world is wholeness, inner world is also wholeness. From wholeness springs wholeness. If you take out wholeness from wholeness, what remains is also wholeness. So this is a totally different self-referral way of creating wholeness from wholeness, and that's very blissful. No matter how big a part you have of the whole, it's not satisfying. Only when you have the whole, you feel more content and you feel peaceful. So the idea is to get to the whole, and that's what sort of keeps us wanting to know more. So talk today is ABC of intelligence. Let's see what I mean by ABC. A is artificial intelligence, or sometimes people call it amplified intelligence, because it's sort of, if you think in terms of it helps human beings to do something better. So it's kind of abstraction of human knowledge in multimodal functional form, helps us do things. And we have all these architectures about it. Then the other thing is creative intelligence, or Vedic Chetna, or consciousness, which is the timeless, unbounded totality of universal reality in its unmanifest potential. We call it Brahman, Brahmasmi kind of Brahman. And then in between are we, the biological intelligence, the human intelligence, which mediates both, because we can work with both. It can enhance the development and use of each other. So here is a little schematic. If you think AI, BI, CI, then CI kind of obviously creates BI. We won't be alive if the creative intelligence or Chetna or consciousness was not there. But then BI helps, our biological intelligence helps create AI. But then AI is also sort of impacting and trying to create biological intelligence on its own. I don't know, we'll call it BI or artificial life, whatever it is. But certainly there's an interplay between AI and BI. Uh, Certainly CI kind of creates AI. So this is a three-part conversation. So we'll talk a little bit about, first we'll create creative intelligence, then about artificial intelligence, then the interplay from biological intelligence perspective. Okay. So if you think of consciousness, the first thing, and this is a chart I've done for a long time, and a lot of here on the call are engineers. So this is the engineering. Pardon me if you've seen this before, if I presented, but like this is let's say an engineering game or engineering system, right? And then in which the light is being produced. And so where do we identify? What is our consciousness, right? So we think we are the bulb, right? I'm the person, who is sort of in front and radiating light, or I'm just the light which is coming out of my body, and I'm not just the body itself, or I'm really the consciousness behind me, which is the electricity, or the energy, my mind, deep mind, which is driving my body to say things that are, which, I mean, it's like light, or am I actually the whole system, wires and magnets behind, which is kind of producing the light, the old generator? Or am I actually more subtle than that? I'm just like pure Chetna, pure like electromagnetism, laws of electromagnetism that's producing the light. I'm not, it doesn't matter, the physics has to be like this, but or the physical objects have to be like this. Or am I actually all the laws of nature? Or am I all of the above? And that is the question. That is the point that which I feel like, whatever your consciousness is, you are right. There's no right or wrong answer. This, if somebody identifies with the bulb, you're right. If somebody says I'm Brahman, so that, like I've seen in our Vedic literature, like Aham Brahma. Obviously, you've all seen like Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. But you say Aham Vishwam. I'm also the world, the outer world, or totality, or aham shariram, I am the body. So there's no sort of correct answer in this. Even your body is kind of an instrument that is helping, and you have to keep it pure so that eternal consciousness works on you. And quickly, just two rishis, what they say about the self. Ramana Maharshi, you all know, coming from that part of the world, some of you. Who am I? And he, when people pestered that, what is the answer to this question, who am I? And he said this very, very clever self-referential answer. The purpose of the question is not to answer the question, not an answer, but it's to dissolve the questioner. The one who's asking has to dissolve, and then you get the answer. And Maharshi would say self is pure joy, pure anand, satchitanand, total knowledge, total power. So you can say like I'm nothing, or I'm everything, totality. And Sadhguru will give his own answers, and all others will give. The idea is that it's sort of not in the relative or self. It goes beyond everything. So this whole idea of transcendence or going beyond is the key theme that I've learned here at Maharshi University, and that is, so I'll just simplify it as absolute and relative, okay, consciousness. They say if you're not Maharshi University, that you don't even know how to talk about pure being, and that's the level at which we do this meditation. We meditate morning, evening, every day, 365 days in class and outside in the meditation domes, because you need to realize that you are pure being, first of all, and that requires you to spend the time to do. And at the relative level, we are human beings, like you and me, and so we have our own various identifiers. So these are the various states of consciousness. To simplify, we usually have a build chart, but the big states of consciousness are the sleep, dream, and waking state. Briefly, if you put in a 2 by 2 matrix of whether you're aware of the self or whether you're aware of the outside world or the content of your external experiences. In the sleep state, you're aware of not of yourself and not of the content outside world. In dream state, you're not aware of yourself, but something is going on, illusion, some major content experiences are going on. In waking state right now, we're aware of me as a person, you are as a person, and then, but it's all overshadowed by perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. It's like, I know I'm there, but mostly I'm engaged with people's perceptions and what I'm seeing on the outside. So there's a fourth state of consciousness. It's called Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma Sa Vigya. It is like the fourth state is worth knowing, and it is Atma. So the fourth state is the pure awareness of the self when we are missing the content of experience. Think of it as pure ultra purification, removing all the impurities. You know how in silicon, when you purify, it takes forever to purify the silicon from the impurities. But so, and especially when you asymptotically get to that sort of the ultimate level, it takes forever. And that's why this is a fourth state of consciousness that you can achieve for some time, and then come back and sort of enjoy that benefits of that. But then higher states are, it's called like Turiyati. Turiya is word from Vedas for fourth state of consciousness. But then there's a Turiyati situation, which is we call fifth state of consciousness, cosmic consciousness, in which I'm aware of the self and I'm also aware of the external experiences. But the important thing is myself is so deeply established that I don't, lose that when I'm operating in the world, like in the waking consciousness. And then you refine consciousness, and then Maharshi would say seventh state of consciousness, Brahmi Chetna, when you are the Brahm, where you actually not only aware of self and are aware of the outside, but there is no separation because you begin to experience the outside world as a self. So this is the levels of consciousness you can reach, and this is important when we begin to look at how we can relate to AI. Okay, so this is my theory of transcendence, that how you transcend. V stands for Vedas, victory. V, or this was born when I met with Otto Scharmer, a professor at MIT, who uses U theory to frame social change. It was like 7-step process of coming down and up. I said, okay, I agree with everything, but maybe we can do faster. You can just come down and come up. That's kind of a Vedic knowledge. So I just, he said he agreed. And in any case, so I just felt I should frame all our Vedic technology as a V. So that's it. This is us. It's a surface reality experience, right? It'll go up and down. Sometimes we are joyful, we're meeting all together, then we're back and something happens and all that stuff. But if we can find a way, a technique, or some process, or method, or practice to transcend to the absolute pure consciousness, the absolute, like I showed you, the pure being, which is pure order, pure oneness, pure unified field of all the laws of nature. And we've done a lot of work here in higher level quantum physics to be able to show that there is a unified field of all reality, like Einstein had suggested. And during this process, basically thoughts, which are kind of the running, some people have described mind as a stream of thoughts. Well, interesting. So if you can stop them stream and then for a moment just go completely into observing the self, then you have this sort of pure consciousness. And then at that level, you stay for a while and then come back out to the relative. And then you sort of back. So I show you in the we basically come a little bit ahead in life. You know, if you had gone in like tired and confused and frazzled, you may come out a little bit more clear, energized, more creative. Now, what are implications is on that? This is the point of transcendence, I call it. In some of the contexts, I can use that point to describe some things. But in Hindi, when Maharshi talks, it's even more clear. I really never was a fan of this word consciousness. It's like it's too much. So when I heard him in Hindi, I said, "Aha, I got it." Thereafter, everything became clear. Man and Atman. Man we understand in Hindi, like it's such a simple word which can mean mind, feelings, memory, everything is in man, and man is like utal putal up and down, it's like surface reality. But Atman is like is infinity value and sort of infinity value of man, and Atman means Atman, the self, the fourth state. So in other words, our Atman, our soul, is not something out there. When our mind kind of settles down, then it becomes Atman. So this is very simple, right? And so what happens is up there when you're operating at the up level, it's like toys. I want more cars, more money, more this and that. But when you hear, it's just pure joy. Yeah, totality and wholeness. Remember we talked about wholeness. And then so up there is more a lot about doing, what are we doing, etc. And right below is like knowing the self, actually not knowing in the sense of the outside world, knowing the self. So this is more sort of infinity level operation we need to do to be able to expand ourselves, to be able to see wider and then have, I think, more creativity comes out of that. Empirically you've shown. In any case, this is the model of consciousness and how we reach there. Why meditation to reach that? Because again, the major drivers of development over a period. When you're a little one, we look at colors and shapes, and above there we can say, oh, this is a glass, big glass, small glass. We can symbolic, and when we get like above that, like and then we can develop language skills, and that becomes main process all through their life because we get more degrees, more knowledge because we become very good at knowledge. Everything is a but if you really want to change ourselves beyond adulthood, early adulthood, really we need to do meditation because we need to learn and transcend what we're seeing more of. It's okay to get more of, but then we need to get back in and realize our own higher consciousness. Maharishi would say, higher education is for higher consciousness, not for acquiring just more knowledge. And there are meditations which differ in effectiveness, two big ones, and I've done both of them. Vipassana for a dozen years and transcendation for 40 years. Some of us learned meditation in Ahmedabad. Remember, they came to teach us. In any case, their footprints are a little bit different. You see here, is there more connectivity in these two bands? Theta means like about 6 to 8 hertz, and there's like 10 to 12. And transcend meditation is alpha one, which is 8 to 10 hertz. So this is like the brain frequencies. If you see the coherence at different frequencies, so they produce slightly different effects. Transcendence really take you down to that oneness. These Vipassana will take you to nothingness. And meditations and meditators can talk about all the differences, but I feel that there is no such thing as bad meditation. Do meditation, whatever you do, but there are obviously differences. She would say, I'm giving you a jet plane. Why would you take a car to go to LA? Well, that's a good question, right? Let me mute somebody. Okay. So, okay, good. All right. Let me, how do I get back to my screen? Okay. All right, good. So, you can see my screen, right? Yeah.
We can. Can you go back to the previous screen, Anil, please?
I'm going back. How do I go back? All righty. Let me stop share and share again. Let me see. It'll get back to the whole screen, I think. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay. So I'll continue. Yeah, go ahead.
How does one read this, Anil, or these two?
What one reads is that when you, like EEG, right? You take EEG
Mm.
and then you say
Yeah,
all the electrodes on your skull. There
yeah,
you
yeah,
measure
yeah,
frequency, the entire
yeah,
range. So if you look at the various
yeah.
theta, alpha, beta, and kind of this range, delta, and like the sleep range. So you see at which range the what range, what frequency range of the brain does this particular meditation activate and create coherence in the brain on.
If I may
Yeah,
translate,
yeah.
and I will use an analogy which should clarify, may confuse, we'll see. So if you take a computer, it is processing symbols, but you can look at the CPU, you can look at memory, you can look at elements and say, if it is doing a lot of computation, there is not memory bandwidth, etc. So a neurologist will look at the way the brain is signaling thetas and to correlation to some activity. So this is a lot about theta waves, jhana, different states of sleep, etc. come from these types of observations. So the activity that is happening at the higher level is reflected at the physical level in neurobiology. And
Yeah, fair
So,
enough.
but from this diagram, from what you've shown here, the transcendental meditation, Alpha 1, there seems to be a lot of activity. Is that, I thought it's the reverse.
No, no, it's not
Activity dies
activity.
down. And then
It's,
what's that then?
no, this is very low. These are very low frequency, 6 to 8. But they're very silent frequencies. They're not like high
no,
activity.
Ian, what you're saying is correct. In a lot of observations, and a lot of it is happening with LLM and neurobiology, what is supposed to be the states of consciousness are actually very active in different ways. We don't know why, but they are not as passive as the word of Satchit Anand may say. It's not a passive state of joy, it's a fairly active state of joy.
Ah, that's a very good point. This is very active, is what we call restful alertness. Your physiology basically becomes very kind of low, right? VO2,
Mhm.
like oxygen, and your heartbeat goes down, but your brain is alert. That's why we could prove it to be a fourth state of consciousness because it's not easy to get in the normal. Normally, when you slow down, you slow down the brain and the physiology too. So this is when you do transcendental meditation, your brain becomes active, very alert, coherent, but in that particular domain. But then when your physiology goes down. So this was one way to prove that yourself is active, but without engaging in the outside.
But this
Oh,
is interesting for me. I never knew that Vipassana is different from TM.
oh,
So,
every meditation is different. I've just picked up the two best ones. Yeah.
for example, Zen meditation, where does Zen go?
I don't know. I've not
Okay,
seen the
okay,
footprint of
okay.
that, but that's people are doing that to show how they're different because, yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, I'll continue this and
Thanks.
we can come
Thank
to
you.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
good questions. Okay, so this is like mindfulness, another meditation, like which has become caught fire, but it sort of stays by the body, just awareness of the body and sort of the thoughts.
Yes.
But TM transcends completely. It just goes beyond the self, beyond complete, just to the pure self, which is beyond breath and everything else. And it decreases anxiety and all the stuff, and increases creativity. I've removed a lot of the slides just for the sake of time because it's more about interest. And anyway, the one that I'm most fascinated by, I stayed at this university, is the idea of world peace. So we like when thousands of people meditate, what happens? That's why I had my title in the collective consciousness. So we did this. I'm just cutting to one more recent experience, which is in the 2000s and up to 2011, 2015. What you see is that we have meditation domes here. We had numbers of meditators like in the sort of in the hundreds, low hundreds. But then a Maharshi came and said, okay, at around 2005, 2006, he said, well, let's increase the thing. Remember the Iraq war was going on, and he wanted to create coherence so that people can do things more correctly, more cogently. So he asked for a lot of meditators to move to Fairfield. The numbers really grew to like what was the target was 1750, which was square root of 1% of the US population. That's a formula he had given ahead of time. And this was promoted as an experiment with independent scientific board, tracking all these things, what will happen. And the point is that for funding was there to support a lot of the meditators here. It remained above 750 for most part of the 4 years. $100 million almost spent on that. Again, courtesy one big donor. And then after that, and then the numbers slowly began to sort of, people began to drift and all this stuff. Now look at the results. And this is like measure, the red line is kind of the composite of 8 different metrics I could show in different individual charts. But point is, in general, all of the, if you think of that as a sort of state quality of life metric, the sort of the crime and whatever else, the U.S. murder rate, for example, was increasing, like 2% like this. It's actually metric. It's a composite metric. Or anyway, it was increasing like that. So now what happens is that during that period, it went down by 20%. Thousands of lives were saved, and then it continued to lower as the numbers stayed relatively high. But then it went up like that, just began to go up again. And then we have continued to measure the data. It's almost like if you sort of didn't do anything, as it's almost like a blip. The curve would have continued straight up, because once you stop creating the coherence, the world goes back to the chaos that it is there. In other words, you have to continue to create coherence in the world. It's not like one shot thing, and that's why not that's why, but I generally have always called meditation the mental shower. Like you take physical shower to remove the impurities, so also you take a mental shower to remove the impurities. And society can meditate together and remove the collective trauma or whatever happens, bad things happen. You have to, shed and move on. Anyway, so this is my final slide on the consciousness side. That there is a lot to consciousness. We start with the premise that consciousness is all there is, and then once we are able to get to the pure being, pure consciousness through and enliven it through thousands of people meditating, you see tremendous benefits at society level. There's a tremendous force of a different kind. Okay, now let me go to AI, and this might be new for some and not so new for some. So artificial intelligence idea is that intelligence, what is intelligence? Look at what we do, right? We see, we hear, we talk, we think, all that stuff. Anything that's done artificially becomes an AI. So the most important thing that these days is machine learning. So if you're learning in our mind through doing various things, if you can machine learn whatever facts are and be able to regurgitate, that's we call machine learning. Uh, uh, and then computer vision, if you say automate what we see through our eyes, becomes computer vision. If you automate language or thing, that becomes NLP. If we haptic processing is coming around touch. Some say even other things are being automated. The idea is being able to do artificially almost all of the five senses and even the mind. So that is where artificial intelligence systems continue to progress. Now, for those who are not aware, I just wanted to show what the model is, just to show how it works. It is a broad term for understanding intelligence, right? AI is kind of all-encompassing, like big data, artificial intelligence. They're like all-encompassing terms, and it's embedded software devices and all kinds of things. And it's able to do, I would call routine knowledge work. And again, routine creativity also can be thought of something that it does, can come up with creative solutions from a human perspective. Now they are usually implemented by ANN successfully. Artificial neural networks, where a network of neurons our human body has about 100 billion neurons out of, let's say, about 40 trillion cells. So artificial neural networks are again an artificial model of the brain, inspired by the information processing of the model of the work, where every neuron essentially does two things: receive stuff, puts it all together in a weighted way, and then passes it on or not pass it on. If the signal is a collective signal is low, it just doesn't pass on. If it's high, then it passes on. Basically, that's what it does. So it's called summation and then transmission. So the deep learning systems are basically, they have lots of layers in between, because you have this billions of neurons, and average neuron has probably about 4,400 connections. Just imagine how many connections are there among all the neurons. So deep learning systems are based highly layered information networks. I'll just demonstrate through a picture in a moment. And then there is a whole thing about transformer system. It came out in 2017. There are new network architecture designed for natural language processing tasks. It increases the ability of the system to take in a lot more what we call context or total input, and be able to more intelligently predict what is going to come next. It still has a lot of this kind of predictive quality, and a lot of it's probabilistic, like Alvin likes to say. But probabilities are getting higher and higher. Still, to the extent it doesn't do right, we call it hallucination. But it can help with natural understanding, translation, classification, also generation of images and videos these days. You see, it's just changing so rapidly that but this whole idea is very fascinating. I'll make a big insight in a slide or two, but I want to show you the architecture just to visually to give you a feel for how it is. So let's say the neurons, inputs are coming like from our eyes, from what we hear. And then these get in, and then it's a weighing function, transformation function is passed on to its next layer of neurons, hidden layer, many neuron layers. And then you might have many hidden layers, and then sort of it gets passed on to ultimately a output neuron, which may be thy finger in that case, and say, okay, touch it or don't touch it, or pull my hand or move like that. So artificial neural networks consist of numerous densely connected processing unit, artificial neurons arranged in multiple layers, and you can have thousands of layers in a deep learning network. And the magical thing is how it works, nobody understands. And that's a big insight. I will tell you how they became so successful. Okay, so evolution is the key thing. So Turing test you heard of, it was set up in by Alan Turing in 1950 or so to see if one can distinguish man from machine from behind the curtain. And so this in 1956, he chose the term artificial intelligence, although other terms are considered in Dartmouth. There was a conference with four big people were there, and then a whole bunch of those people, four like godfathers at that level. Marvin Minsky from Alan Newell from Carnegie Mellon, and the two others, I forget the names right now. Anyway, so knowledge-based expert systems were the rage in the 70s, 80s. I said, okay, let's tell what's the knowledge, and machine can operate from that knowledge. And somehow that thing just Marvin Minsky famously said that no, neural networks are a waste of time. So anyway, the whole idea was knowledge-based systems, so we call expert systems. And they were small-scale systems that helped with many processes, including medical and sort of I think the Digital Equipment Corporation had a model to sort of do the configuration of various systems. But anyway, those are very small scale. In fact, I did work on expert systems in the late 80s before I came to the US. But they were not scalable and failed. And that led to 20 years of what we call AI winter. Basically, that model was going nowhere. It was not possible for everybody to imagine all the situations. And then this deep neural network was invented. This machine learns by itself. And this is what Jeff Hinton's thing. He said he's been working on this 75. And so through the winter where he was kind of in a total wilderness because everybody said that it's not possible. This idea is that let the network learn by itself. And he designed the system and sort of got better. And with him, it's a couple of his grad students, right, who all got the Turing Award. But then it was by Fei Fei Li who created the ImageNet process. She's another young woman who came from China, physicist, came to ultimately to Stanford. She's there. But she said, okay, can it distinguish between images? So she started collecting images, and ImageNet was going nowhere. The whole thing, AI was kind of nowhere. But then once the ImageNet project started, and then it began to improve upon the human the classification category, and then it became like, in 3 years, it became so much better than even human level that they basically disbanded the annual ImageNet competition. Can you believe that? How rapidly it grew. And then, of course, the transformation model, as I just mentioned, and in 22, I think, November, they brought this ChatGPT, and now there's so many models. So the idea is now that this thing learns by itself, which is why we can't figure out what it learned. Now, sort of, we can see if they use their own language that human beings can't understand. But anyway, they'll learn by itself. So where do we go from here? This is my V architecture of AI system because I enjoy V, and I had this N-tier architecture. So at the base of AI systems is data, everything. That's why famously I used to always mention that Tesla. Elon Musk gave away his entire sort of the architecture of the AI system, the self-driving, but he never gave one bit of data. Data is key. It's the foundational stuff. Then above that is in between, you can say GPU chips from NVIDIA, etc., like the small supercomputer I showed, and they power the data centers. And then you have above that the algorithms, the fairly simple algorithm. Now they say algorithms can fit into like a few pages of text. They're not very difficult, and that's what forms the neural networks. They're self-referral. They're learning on their own. And then upper level is interface and communication. Now it's text and video and conversation action. So this the totality of sort of understanding of how at the high level the AI systems work, and a lot of what I was talking about algorithms. It was at this level of algorithms and the chips. These are the ones that are making a lot of money these days, especially the chips part. And AI is becoming 10x more powerful every year. Actually, probably it's now 20, 30x more powerful. They say in every few weeks, AI, the landscape changes. It's tremendous. And the machine that I posted on, like the people are able to use that to design their GPTs and different models. Now, this is the third part. So that was consciousness, this was AI. Then how do we do interplay? What is the modality in which we can talk? let's say from knowing and doing, right? So let's say, so interplays proposition one. I just want to make some proposition. Collective consciousness of human nodes can be as powerful as collective power of AI computer. That's like proposition I'm saying. Maybe we can test out. That's why I was showing the collective consciousness research of creating peace. Satya versus Maya. Satya is the eternal truth, and Maya is sort of the whole dunya. Second one is human consciousness, like the lamp at the door. Like in Nyaya, they say like a judge has to balance this side and that side. So lamp at the door is kind of illuminating both sides of the intersection, AI and Chetna, or consciousness in the exterior and the interior. So human consciousness really is a biological intelligence. And then third is that we think we can, at least we are proposing AI can help measure the development of consciousness, although it's only able to see the external correlates, but it can do. We have written paper on that with my co-author. And then can AI penetrate Brahmichetna? That's the ultimate thing. Can it reach that, be consciousness itself? Can it overcome the hard problem of consciousness? If you know about this thing, this hard problem of consciousness is how can something so material can become self-aware? How can it become an experience? Like where does it make the leap? Can it experience subjective quality or oneness? And Vedic answer would be no, but that doesn't stop the scientists from trying to develop this idea of self-referral. So what might be a conversation between the two? So one is more external, one is internal. Both are extremely powerful. Like I said, both of the infinity. So then I thought of this. You see the image on right at the top, which is the Rishi and the robo. I said, well, let's do a conversation between Rishi and a robo. So it's about one is about I'll show you just a bunch of them, but like one about knowing and or two such couplets about knowing and two about doing. So Rishi versus Robo, and they're having conversation. What can AI not know or know? Okay, the Robo says, Rishi, what is it that you don't know? He says, I don't know the knower of the known. Okay, which is the kind of self at the ultimate level. But if it can be known, then the knower is also known. It's a very clever answer, Robo. I'm always thinking about what it is. What does it mean? But if it can be known, the knower, then the knower is also known. But then who then knows that? So in other words, ad infinitum, and then how much layer deep you can know. Another one is there nothing Rishi does not know? Robo says, I don't know why Brahman plays hide and seek with himself. Why doesn't it just settle down? Why does it sort of have all these sort of Maya and Shimara? Well, Brahman is unfinished when it's reality, Robo says. So why is he hiding? So that we may laugh when we discover. So it's like a play, a lila going on, and Brahman is just having fun because Brahman is, we are all Brahman. So there's one way of looking at that. Maybe Rishi has ability to laugh. That Rishi has ability to go deeper and deeper. I can explain many conversations I've had with many people, but anyway, this is the idea. Now let's say, well, what is the AI cannot do? So let's say Robo said, Rishi, what can you not do? So I cannot count the grains of sand in the riverbank. Oh, that's easy. I can give me data and time. But can you feel the warmth of a single grain in your palm? So how is that about doing? Well, when you're doing it, you should feel the totality of the experience, but that fellow will only count. So that's another thing. There's a one-minded subject when you say count, means count with some warmth, etc. Okay, what else can you not do? Or what else can you do? I cannot command a tear to fall at the right time. But I can simulate crying with water and sound. But simulation is just a shadow. Only life knows when to weep. So this whole idea of the totality deciding what it is and as against simulation. So these are things about like with a tear or grains of sand, etc., that AI cannot do except in the most mechanical, direct, objective function. It probably boils down to what the objective function is for Rishi's totality, whereas for Robo is exactly what you want it done. So what are the individual implications very quickly? If it balance consciousness and AI, well, can it help achieve become Brahman? Can it help achieve a dharma? Can it tell us? A lot of people are suffering from lack of purpose. And what is a dharma? Can it help us even know what is dharma? And the idea is, can AI have a dharma? Can it have an own sort of life mission? We'll see. Organization implications, that's what you were talking about, Ian. So AI delivers efficiency, decision-making, innovation, and all these things in the outside world, while Vedic Chetna or consciousness brings leadership, culture, ethics, wholeness, well-being. So can we create consciousness-based AI-augmented organizations? I think that would be the holy grail. But also, from a planetary and sustainability perspective, can it go beyond organizations to deliver proper bottom line benefiting people, profit, planet? So that's another thing to discuss. Societal implications, we know that it's transforming education, healthcare, economic governance, whereas Vedic Chetna, obviously, from all the research I showed, you can help with the harmony and coherence and wisdom and peace and bringing more resilience within. So, can society utilize AI for human development, or 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 can society survive AI, depending on how we use it? So my bottom last slide is so world peace and prosperity from a clever, intentional interplay of AI and consciousness. So we know that we are the pure consciousness. If we created AI, so we are pure bliss and we can do everything that we want. And the educational social organization can use AI to support techniques in creating coherence in the collective consciousness for world peace. So with that, thank you, and I will stop sharing.
Thanks, Anil.
You're welcome. Hopefully, it made sense.
In in parts, lots of questions, of course, as usual.
That's kind of you.
But you jumped from. I mean, I'm just going to ask you a question. You jumped from AI. There's a lot of different types of AI, etc., etc. And you started off with consciousness, with meditation. Actually, not consciousness, meditation, different types of meditation, and then you jumped to global, collective, peace, etc., etc. But in the middle, somewhere in the middle, is the organization, right? And you haven't really touched upon too much about the organization. So if you talk about an organization, it's a collective of, let's say, 2,000 people, right?
Yeah.
2,000 humans.
Yeah.
And what do we mean by organizational consciousness, collective consciousness of the organization? What is that? Forget world peace. There's an organization with a purpose, right? So hopefully there's a purpose. It could be a commercial purpose. It could be some other purpose, NGO kind of thing. But there is a purpose for the organization. There's a collective consciousness of the people who work in that organization. How can AI be leveraged to help that collective consciousness being aligned, right?
Yeah.
We use loose terms like culture. What's the culture of an organization? And you can take three different organizations with the same purpose, but three different cultures. And to me, that culture is a measure of the collective consciousness, which has been imbibed over 15, 20, 25 years, right? And now we have AI. So how can AI be used to first understand the culture? Is today's AI capable of understanding a culture of an organization and giving answers?
Yeah.
Giving situational answers which reflect the culture of that organization, not the world, but that organization.
The last part is the easiest one. Yes, it will give very contextual answer. That much I've written also in one of the chapters. I've written how in an individual situation in organizations how it'll give guidance to a particular person, whether it's a researcher or a customer service expert or somebody else or how to help them identify their from whatever data they've seen as to what their particular interest is and what would they excel in. So big part beyond general efficiency, which I'm not totally interested in, that the one thing, but the idea that human beings can become more aware of themselves in terms of it's like a magic trick. What research are you aware of that? Thank you, Alan. It's a magic trick. It's all magic right now, what's going on with AI. Can you imagine this? But anyway, the idea is to be able to help you as a person within the company become more efficient and more, not efficient, means like more directed towards achieving your own thing. So again, organization is a collective of people, collection of people. You can see it that way. And you have purpose. Again, collective purpose should inform individual purpose. In fact, we've done a very, very interesting paper with Rakesh Gupta, who's a classmate at IMA, on this kind of Vedic leadership, which is that idea that what is the purpose you bring. And he started with purpose of Vasudev Kutumbakam. He basically said that we have to include everybody in the organization. He set up this company in Kerala, your home state, and he basically grew up, instead of being up to 50 people, he grew to 3,000 people company in 10 years. And that's because he included everybody and supported everybody. So if you have that kind of consciousness in the organization, people can enliven that way. AI can bring that efficiency there. And for example, one of the interesting things is when interacting with auditors, instead of seeing this as obstacles or sort of adversary, he said, well, they are our best friends, because he would put his best people to work with auditors because they're identifying our mistakes and they help us how to improve. So again, how you see it is a attitude. And AI can also help you instead of identifying your own mistakes. And if you take it positive, then you can help improve yourself. So your culture can improve towards being perfect or being inclusive and being efficient, all of that stuff. So I think AI, the research on what AI can do and is doing in organizations is enormous. So it isn't, you know, what research is there, what's going on from what we have done. What we have done is more like how it helps individuals go to do their own dharma. Organizational dharma, what is the organizational dharma? As I said, we have done the papers. There's another research. I've only found two papers, two such researches. One is in Bootzog in Netherlands. If you've heard of Bootzog, it's a community-based health care organization where they're self-organizing teams. And so that's another instance of you just trust people and they will begin to do the right thing. These are like counterintuitive in today's trustless society, but those are the kind of things in which the consciousness is embedded. Now, will AI develop that consciousness? I don't know. Again, depends on how you use it. At this point, we are still at the level of AI is there and we use it, right? So again, depends on the imagination of the person as to what they want to get done and how you can use it. Yeah,
Can
Mala.
I
Can I?
can I build Mala? Go ahead.
Yeah. I want to ask you an even more fundamental question, like, how do you define individual consciousness versus organizational consciousness? And is there some kind of a continuum between self-awareness and consciousness? I mean, I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page as you.
Consciousness or chetna is a much deeper word than awareness. Chetna is about chetna, it's like being alive, essentially. Now, very often it's translated closely in English as awareness.
Is it awareness or is it self-awareness?
I mean, self-awareness, right? Awareness of external stuff is kind of a given long time ago, but self-awareness, but how level of depth you can go. Can you realize that you're alive? The pure alive, its life itself is joy, for example, right? Can you get to that level? So consciousness is primary. Self-awareness is the idea of the self. Consciousness is primary. Chetna is all there is. So now the term is used individual consciousness, so social consciousness. These are all parodied terms, basically not parodied. What we would say, I would call them. These are all derivative terms that we say we can't understand consciousness as all everything. So they will begin to say individual consciousness, human consciousness, even a dog consciousness. We would say from a conscious Vedic perspective, even rock has consciousness, very tiny, minuscule. So everything is consciousness to the extent is there. So yeah, can AI be consciousness? Can anything be consciousness? Yes.
So what is organization consciousness then?
I don't know. That Ian used the word. I don't use the word organizational consciousness. Organizational
Can I
culture is
to,
whatever. Yeah, I don't
can I
know.
try to shape it? Give me a few minutes to put it in context so that,
Yeah.
see, a lot of the language used is very ancient, thousands of years, and they are very abstract, so difficult to understand. So I will use some metaphors or analogies to bring in to the point I'm making. So if you are mathematics, there is a notion of infinity. The number of points in an infinite line is infinite. That's called LF1, Cantor set. But the number of points in an infinite rectangle, which X and Y, is also infinite, but that LF2 is larger than LF1. So even though they both are infinite, there is a notion of one infinity being larger than one. Same for Q, which is part of the consciousness. The actor, a human consciousness, may be smaller than society or universal consciousness in some measure, which may be the number of points you have. It doesn't mean power. That's a separate issue. That's an assumption you make. So the first thing is when we are talking about consciousness, etc., we are talking about infinites. And the mathematics and theory of it is very different. The English language used to describe it may lead to some degree of imprecision. I would suggest thinking in terms of Cantor set theory may help. So that's number one. Number two, what Anil calls biological, I call it carbon life. There is a carbon symbol processing machine, and even whales and puppets, they show consciousness, they show intelligence. There is a lot of empirical evidence that individual cells are conscious. And this is a very strange statement I'm making, but there's a lot of empirical evidence. And going back to Anil's statement between the rishi and the robot, yes, we are limited to 4 dimensions, time, space. We cannot visualize and see 36 dimensions or the Vishwa. And this is as an empirical physicist, we have found ways to see the reflection of giant things in physical things and measure. That's how cosmology, quantum mechanics. So we are confident that over time, it's a difficult thing. We will discover more in relation to consciousness, etc. I had talked about xenobots. They have done tremendous amount of work on differentiated intelligence and differentiated consciousness. There is plenty of evidence that the two are unrelated. Consciousness has nothing to do with intelligence. This can surprise people, but I will leave it there. Now, let me come back to the most important word that Anil used, coherence. I, as an engineer, as a physicist, I would leave the word consciousness out and coherence. Coherence produces well-directed activity, whether it's coherence of one person or a group or organization or a society. Now, coherence can be achieved through different methods. Economic incentives is used by Western things, the reward. Leadership, religion uses one model of ideology of getting coherence. So there are different ways of coherence, and AI can help in coherence if we are primarily language oriented, if we ignore non-verbal talk, and lot of things that happen in organization is not what is stated. The standard operating procedure is nowhere the way it works. There's a lot of people relationships, etc., which is not captured in data that the AI can see. But given the visible document, AI can help a lot in articulating people's likes and dislikes. That's why it is very popularly used in therapy by a lot of teenagers, because it chats back and gives them observations about what they have written, etc. It can also help understand agenda because it knows a lot of drama, it knows a lot of motivation. So in that sense, to help coherence, AI can help. But it will not succeed as much as people think, just as markets, bureaucracy, religion, all have not helped develop that universal coherence, which is the ideal desire. It's an unsolved problem whether we can even have ideal desire. And where I would like to flip is from blockchain. So you have multiple actors, you can achieve consensus. That's the proven blockchain. When people don't agree, you create a fork. So you have Bitcoin and you have Bitcoin Cash because those guys wanted a larger block size. In real world, when people disagree, power is used, other ways are used to get concessions. You can't just fork your own city or your own thing and get away. So the notion of a universal consciousness of coherence is very nice, but I would doubt that it will actually happen for biological people. Even Silicon Life, LLMs, they have personalities. They cheat, they lie, they are learning a lot of behavior because we are socializing them like that. So I will leave it there. But I would suggest that the word coherence is much more appropriate from an organizational sense. And the coherence of an organization can be mapped, values, willingness to take risk, willingness to question authority, willingness. There are a lot of small things that can be mapped. How you can improve it is more a question of, I still say, leadership and the thing. AI can help in articulating, measuring, or sharpening it. I would rest my statement there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arvind. Useful.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
I think that's why I said I don't like the word consciousness too much because I don't like the derivative words like individual or conscious. But consciousness by itself is the totality, and then it's easier to use self-awareness. I think in that level, although self-aware, it's like man, you can't translate. It's the same way Chetna is very
But
difficult.
even self-awareness, see, this is uncharted territory. So computers are self-aware by definition because the kernel knows which processes are running, etc. I call it silicon life. It is a difficult concept for a carbon life to understand that an alternative life form is forming in front of us. So it's very difficult to define these words. We have not seen non-carbon life, non-carbon consciousness. So it's very difficult to relate to them. But all that is happening empirically, the Gen AI models, the embedded intelligence, that means it can sense, it can hear, it can feel, is happening. That's happening for robots. And you will find them behaving very much like human being. A lot of evidence is there that they will behave very much like biological life.
Yeah. And another aspect, mathematically, they say human sort of antenna or ability to perceive is somewhere from 10 to minus 29 till 10 to plus 29 kind of a sort of orders of magnitude, whereas the universe goes to almost 10 to minus 45 to 10 to plus 40. It's almost 85 orders of magnitude. So human ability, the biological instrument that we have, or hydrocarbon instrument, can only access a part of the spectrum of the totality of reality. So the consciousness, as we define, or at least our rishis defined, is much bigger wholeness than what human beings can conceive. And to the extent the AI right now is starting from what we know or what we can, what we is a subset of what we feed it. Right now would be even less dimensions, but over time, who knows? How it is modeled and what can be. That's where tremendous room for innovation, I would think.
But coming back to Ian's issue of coherence for organization, how can these tools help? So if you look at how coherence is achieved in organization, team bonding, workshops, social exercise, there are a lot of ways in which human beings relate to each other. Coherence does not come from ideas, it comes from emotions. And that's something that Anil mentioned but did not stress. So actually, coherence will come a lot more by emotional bonding and emotional thing.
Yeah.
Economic benefits helps, reward punishment help, but they don't really get to the coherence that you're looking for.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Emotional
thank
reward,
you.
emotional incentives,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah.
I
That's
also
useful.
need to
I'll
go. Actually, it so happens that today my wife and I have to go somewhere. Otherwise, I would have gone on for longer. Usually, I like
No
longer.
problem. No, this is good. This is good. We had this session. Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Anil, and
Thank you.
everyone else
Thank you, Alan.
for
Thank you.
attending.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you have the recording, Anil, so
Yeah.
you
I'm
can
stopping.